Welcome back to the exciting part of the tutorial where we add textures to our beautifully modeled bottle. But before we go into all that good stuff, let's create a scene for our bottle to interact with because at the moment it's isolated and that's not what we want. So let's add a backdrop. Shift A to add a plane, S and 10 to scale it by 10 units and enter. Tap to go into edit mode. Click the edge at the back there, extrude it on the Z axis like so, like that. Select this one in the middle, Control B, and just add Lucas to it so it's nice and clean like that. And then right click and shade smooth. That's it. And the next thing we need to add is a camera so we'll be able to see to get a good render. So Shift A, go to camera. We can see that because it's hiding down here. If we hit 0 on the numpad, we see this because that's what the camera is seeing at the moment. But I want the camera to look at it from the top, like so. If we want the camera to be looking at this bottle as we're seeing it, we would just hit Control, Alt, and 0. It forces the camera to see what we're seeing at the moment, which is good. And the other cool thing we can do if we really want to position this bottle nicely to get a good shot is down here in the camera we can see composition guides. Here we can select this so we see this grid, and that helps us just to position our bottle wherever we want, really in the middle, depending on how you're basically how you want your composition to be for the shot you want to take. But we just put that at the center. And the other thing I want us to do is just to beef up the focal length of the camera here to 100, something like that. Take this back, HDRI, and then just put it back in position like that. Yeah, I like that one. The other thing is to go and change the resolution. You could leave it like this if this is what you want, but because we're dealing with just a single bottle, we don't really need all of these, do we? So let's invert that. Let's change those values. Let's put this 1080 by 1920 pixels, 1920 down here. So we have this Instagram type of shot like that. Just G and position it nicely how you like it. I think that's fine. Now we're ready to go ahead and add material to our bottle. And if we go up here in the material preview, we see that everything is white. Another thing that we can do while we're here, which I just like to do, is just to increase the value of this passepartout. I could be pronouncing that incorrectly, but if we slide this up, we see that it turns everything in the scene dark except what the camera is seeing, which I quite like because it helps me focus on the objects, particularly if I'm trying to take a shot of a single model like this one. And now when we go into the rendered view here, we see that everything is dark. And that's because there is absolutely nothing, no light in the scene. And it's difficult for us to add material and see what's going on if there is no light. So to that effect, let's go into the shading. And in the shading view, let's just go ahead and add in a high dynamic range image or HDRI. To do that, we just go down here and select world. And this just brings up the world properties. As you can see, the color of the world, which is the environment where our object is found, is dark. And you can really change the values here. You can select what color this is. You can make it brighter. I would undo that and leave it like that. Now we need to add in the HDRI. And to make our workflow faster, we just need to go and make sure that our node wrangler tool is enabled. So go to edit, down to preferences, and select, just search node wrangler. And you can see that mine has been enabled. I like it enabled all the time. So make sure yours is enabled. And what that does is if you select this background here and click Control T, it just adds these other things really easily, and there are shortcuts to this. It's really cool. And by the way, I'm using version 4.0 here, just to let you know. And with version 4.0, I noticed that the Shift S, which is a shortcut to switch the node and replace it, is not functional. Like if I want to change this, it used to be Shift S, but at the moment it's not possible to switch it. So we'll just add in things by searching them and adding them manually. So notice that this background, everything is pink here. And that's because the world is expecting the image and there isn't anything. And that's Blender just telling us that the image is missing. Go ahead and select whatever image works for you. Mine is from Polyhaven, and you can find the link in the description below. So I will open up that image in the reference. It's this one. And now you can see that there's light in our scene. And I like that. So if we hit 0, we can see that our bottle is now lit, and that's good. This is just an easy way for us to have enough light in the scene to play with. And mine is showing up that the background is transparent because I changed that in the settings down here. So you have this film option. There is a filter size, and I've checked this transparent. If you uncheck that, you can see the image, but I don't want those distracting elements in the HDRI. So I will put that transparent. So if yours is showing that and you want to change that to what you're seeing at the moment, make sure you keep it transparent like mine. Now we are ready to go ahead and add texture to the bottle. I know this is a bit of a longer video, but bear with me. I want to use this video to go over as many things as I can while keeping it as short as possible. So let's add in material to the backdrop straight away. I'll go back to Object and select the backdrop. So let's add a new material. By default, it brings up the principal BSDF shader and then the material output, and the color there is white. So let's just change that to something that's nice like so. That can make the bottle stand out. And that's about it. You can change the color to whatever you want. I think I can make that darker like so. Yeah. So we keep it at that. I actually like that reflection that's going on here. That's cool. Next, let's go ahead and select this bottle. Oh, let's do the material for the cap, and let's name that cap. Again, we click new and we change that and name it cap. So we know the material is for the cap. With the cap material, we'll make it completely black. So select that color and just bring this down really. So the color is black, and there are other things that you can do here, like change the roughness. You can slide this down to make it shinier like plastic or anything, which this is really cool. Or you could take the roughness up to 1, which makes it very rough like that. But I think if we bring it like so, that makes sense for a plastic material. The roughness is okay. We could even bring it down a notch. That looks good. And another thing we could do is it's adding a noise texture to the cap. And to do that, we'll just select the principal BSDF shader and Control T again. Delete this image texture because we don't need an image, and Shift A to add in a texture called the noise texture. And then connect the vector to the vector here, and then map this factor into the normal. What we really want is to add some bumps to the cap. So Shift A to add in a bump vector here like that, and change this from the normal to the height so it affects the height. Nothing is showing up on the object because by default this plugs into the UV, which Blender expects that this is UV unwrapped. But because we will not be unwrapping this object, we're just going to use the object itself. So we'll change from UV to object. So we'll connect the object to the vector. And now we see something that looks like this. That isn't particularly appealing. And that's because the strength of the bump is at maximum, which is 1. And the scale of the noise texture is very low. So if I increase this scale, we can see that the texture gets finer and finer like so. So if we beef it to something like, let's say 500, you see that there's a texture there which is finer like this. And it just adds some realism to that object. The problem, however, is that the strength of this bump is really high. We can bring that down a notch, like so, like that, and the distance too. Let's just play with the distance. This is really what we want to see on our bottle. I mean, you can make it slightly shiny, and that to me looks okay. Now, the next thing we're going to do is add in the glass/plastic material on our bottle. Let's go add new and let's name that glass. And then for the glass material, we are going to bring the roughness down so it's a lot shiny. And then we're also going to make sure that the transmission value is at maximum, so that becomes glass. And then the next thing we can do is change the color. Pick whatever color works for you. I have a hex value for this, which I am actually going to use. The hex value is, if you'd like to copy, is FFD 584. And yeah, that's what we'll use for this one. And I'm just going to add in a glass shader here, Shift A, and add in shader glass BSDF. And then I'm going to mix these two. Let's go and add a mix shader so that we can mix these two by a factor of 0.5. If this does not make sense to you, don't worry. The idea is feel free to play with these notes as much as you want, change the color, do whatever you want, and just monitor what happens here when you do that, just like we did with the cap. That's really it. So our bottle has the principal BSDF shader mixed with the glass shader by this factor, and we'll keep it at that. The other thing I want us to notice is that the glass isn't looking nice really, and that's because by default the render engine is Eevee, and Eevee does not really handle glass well. So we'll change that from Eevee to Cycles, and now you can see that our glass shader is looking good. Also, you can notice that while I was playing with this, I added the liquid to it, which is just duplicating the, let me just show you. So if I hide the bottle, I just created something like this, which was just copied the glass from there and created something like a liquid in the bottle. And that's why this looks like this. So that's just to show the liquid that will be there, which will have some sort of a glass texture as well. Now, the next thing we need to do is change the color of the glass. You could leave it like that if you like it that way, but I'm just going to change it to this FFD9A5 if you want to do the same thing. And that's only because I really wanted it to look like the object I'm modeling, as close to it as possible. We'll copy this material and add it to our liquid object, because why not? So go ahead and create something like that. So when you select the oil in the bottle, select that and just give it the glass material. It would look something like this. Create a new material from it by just clicking these two and rename that to oil. So that's a nice looking bottle with oil in it. The tube does not need to be black. We're going to make it glass. So let's hide the oil and the bottle. Go into object mode, hit tab, Alt Z to select this face, this edge, and then Control plus, like that. Add a second slot to the cap and assign that slot to the selected faces. Let's create a new material for that, and we will call it tube material. And the tube material will be, actually the tube material should be glass. Yeah, it should be the glass, but let's create that. We can just copy the glass. So we can change the color to white. So that becomes something that looks like that. And that's all we really need to do for the tube. And if we bring back the bottle and the oil. Now, let's do material preview. So the next thing we need to do is to add in that sticker on the bottle. So if you have an image texture or anything, you can add whatever you want for the product. But for this one, let's just select that and then just select these faces. So in the face select mode, we select this and go to glass and add another slot just like we did with the cap. And let's name that, let's add a new material and name that sticker. And for the sticker material, we are going to add in just a sticker image, which is an image texture. So here we'll do Control T as well. When we go into the rendered view, we can see, oh, let's assign that sticker to this one. Let's go to material preview. So in the material preview, this is looking dark. So if we plug this off, we see that that's where the sticker will be, but it's looking smaller than the length that we wanted because there are no loop cuts here. And notice that when we modeled this object, it was lacking some loop cuts around here. So let's just Control R and add some loop cuts here. And then go back into the preview. Now we can see that that's right about the size of the sticker. I think we can add it here as well. So down here, face select, click on that, go to the sticker and also assign that one so it also has the same material. So that looks good. In the camera view, this is what we're looking at. And to add in the texture, I have a texture for this, so you can upload what you have for your object. So just go and open that up, and where is that material? Is that one? Open that. Now, nothing is showing up because, again, we're expecting a UV. For this one, we will unwrap it so that the image will sit properly on the object. So in slot 2, let's just select all of them so that we can see. I will just mark 2 seams here. Or let's see what the camera... Okay. So I would mark a seam here. I want to be seeing the logo of the image here. So Control E and select Mark Seam. And then I would go back to slot 2 and select all the faces that have that, like so. And then I'll just hit U and unwrap. And for us to see the unwrapped image, it's basically stretching this out. That's what it is. We can see that the image is stretched out. And what I wanted for this island, this one, is to just hit L and then G and place it here. And then let me bring the material view here, camera, so you can see the logo is right there. And I will scale that on this X like so. I think if I go up a bit like so, SY to scale it up so it's not so stretched, and that looks good. And the other one is this island, which would take the text. So deselect an L, select that, and let's see if it's rotated correctly. Yep, I think if we rotate, so we'll do 90 minus so we can read the text. Yep, and then scale that on the x-axis as well, like so. Bring it down. Just place it where you think is nice. Yeah, that works well for me. So select this island again. Scale it to something like that. That looks okay. And yep, perfect. And that's about it for a material creation process. And the next thing we need to do now is just go ahead and render our first object. And with the light setup like this, hopefully we get a clean shot. So yeah, the render settings, you can put whatever samples you want. While testing this, I thought 40 samples would do well for me. Just enough. You can take this to however large or small you want it to be. But for a quick render, that's okay because I do not have the strongest system. So let's go ahead and try a render. And from here, you can create an animation, which I did create, and I will show you at the end of this. But let's create a render for an image and see how that looks. And there we have a bottle with our textures on it. And yeah. So that's the beautifully rendered image of our bottle with the textures on there looking as realistic. If you want more light, you can add in light to your scene, play with it, and create whatever you want from this really. But I just wanted to show you this, and I hope you enjoyed it. Here's a quick video of this same bottle, just camera animation. And I hope that's something that inspires you. And if you enjoy this, click the subscribe button, stay with me. Let's grow as large as we can get. And yeah, like, share it. Let's connect. And thank you for your time. That's it from me to you. See you in the next tutorial.